Mainland Australia has active volcanoes. They are just generally not quite as active as multiple specific volcanoes in Italy or Indonesia. And yet, Aboriginals witnessed at least 2 of these erupt, and with such recent eruptions there is no denial that a similar situation could occur during the modern era. For example, just look at how many people today live in close proximity to this 1.5 kilometer wide volcanic explosion crater that formed a mere 5,000 years ago. Now, while both active and dormant volcanoes in Australia do pose a potential future threat, the expected danger from such and likelihood of a volcanic disaster occurring is substantially lower than that of destructive wildfires, flooding, or highly venomous spiders completely coating the ground in webs. Because, of course, it's Australia. I used to live there, by the way. Getting back on topic, I am both a geologist and volcanologist, and today I will discuss all 6 Australian volcanoes which could theoretically erupt again in the future. To determine exactly how potentially dangerous each volcano is, I will utilize the same methodology the U.S. Geological Survey uses to rate United States volcanoes, with factors including but not limited to amount of nearby population and air traffic, explosiveness of eruptions, recent signs of unrest, and how often a given volcano erupts. However, all volcanoes on the Australian mainland look different from a stereotypical volcano you find in the Philippines, Japan, or Costa Rica. There are no central towering and steep-sloped edifices many kilometers wide. Instead, mainland Australia's volcanoes consist of so-called volcanic fields where distinct eruptions can theoretically happen at any specific isolated point within a large zone, often spanning hundreds or thousands of square kilometers in area. This potential does not mean that any spot of ground could literally erupt within the specified large zone at any moment. Rather, magma could in the future theoretically intrude many kilometers upwards at any point within this large zone, leading to an isolated spot-specific eruption. Each volcanic vent is monogenetic, meaning they erupt once and then never erupt again. However, this fact, theoretically speaking, does not prevent another future volcanic eruption from occurring half a kilometer away from an extinct pre-existing vent. With that out of the way, here are my threat designations of Australia's volcanoes, going from least potentially dangerous to most potentially dangerous. The 2 lowest threat Australian volcanoes are situated far away from the mainland, thousands of kilometers in fact. Heading 4,000 kilometers southwest of Perth are 2 completely uninhabited islands which have been recently quite active. The McDonald Island's lava dome complex volcano had been dormant for 75,000 years before it unexpectedly erupted again in 1992. The island then continued to grow in size, erupting 3 more times, last erupting in 2005. Meanwhile, the glacier-covered Big Bend volcano on Heard Island is actively erupting right now, occasionally sending lava flows down its southwestern slope which can be visible from satellite. However, despite their high level of activity, both of these volcanoes are uninhabited and aircraft really don't fly over or near these volcanoes, so they are assigned a score of 2 and 3 respectively in the very low threat category. Next up, all in the low threat category, we have 3 volcanic fields in Queensland, specifically in mostly less populated areas west of between Bowen to the south and Cairns to the north. Lowest on this list is the McBride Basalt province, which was actually witnessed by the Aboriginals erupting approximately 7,000 years ago. That eruption formed a 178 square kilometer lava field, sending molten rock up to 52 kilometers distant. However, this volcanic field, which includes the older Undara volcano, erupts quite infrequently and has never seemingly produced anything more significant than either an effusive or moderately explosive eruption. Heading to the south, we have the Nulla volcanic province, which erupts about once every 100,000 years. Its youngest feature is the Tumbo volcano, a 676 square kilometer and 120 kilometer long lava flow which erupted 13,000 years ago. If a highly similar instead of a more common smaller eruption were to occur again in the future, it could send lava flows into multiple structures. Southwest of Cairns, we have the Atherton Basalt province, which has in recent geologic times only produced either moderately explosive cinder cone-forming eruptions or highly explosive mar-forming eruptions. The latter could generate multi-kilometer-long pyroclastic flows and generate a substantial enough eruption plume to disrupt air traffic associated with Cairns Airport for a time. Thankfully, eruptions are quite infrequent in this volcanic field. Finally, in both sections of Victoria and South Australia are portions of the vast newer Volcanics province. This complex in recent times has erupted about once every 6,500 to 9,000 years, creating cinder cones, small shield volcanoes, and large more explosion craters. This field has been active for the last 4.6 million years and contains more than 400 vents. While this overall province covers 26,154 square kilometers, only two subsets of this, totaling a little less than 5,000 square kilometers, have produced eruptions during the last 100,000 years. To the west, we have a cinder cone and what I deem to be a VAI-4 explosive eruption from the Holocene that formed the feature the decently sized town of Mount Gambier was named after. A series of large more explosion craters. To the east, two large lava fields associated with the eruptions of Mount Napier and Mount Ackley's exist, but after this, 9 of the remaining 10 vents formed in highly explosive mar-forming eruptions. For example, this more than 3-kilometer-long Tower Hill Mar formed 35,000 years ago, or this series of more than a dozen Mars formed at Red Rock 6,000 years ago. Elaborating further on the two zones of the newer Volcanics province where volcanic activity has sporadically occurred during the last 100,000 years, today more than 100,000 people live within these two areas. This means that if a future volcanic eruption were to occur there, a subset of these people could be within potential lava flow or pyroclastic flow hazard distance during an eruptive sequence. Such explosive eruptions are likely to disrupt regional air traffic at airports associated with Australia's second largest city if they occur, specifically Melbourne. Thus, it should come as no surprise that the newer Volcanics province is classified in the middle end of the high threat category. However, there is some good news. None of these mainland Australian volcanoes have shown any recent signs of life, whether that be from newly degassing vents, ground deformation, or earthquake swarms. And eruptions in mainland Australia are quite rare. In fact, I estimate that only a single volcanic eruption occurs within the mainland about once every 4,729 years on average. In other words, the chance of an eruption happening in mainland Australia during an average lifetime, whether that be in Victoria, South Australia, or Queensland, is a mere 1.74%. That is far less than Canada, where that chance is 32.26%, or New Zealand, where it is just a tiny fraction under 100%. Thanks for watching this longer duration video of mine, and I hope that you found it interesting. As a final note, I would like to thank my new YouTube channel member, Shirley Katz, for supporting my work.